Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Popcorn Culture. I'm Khai.
I'm Zat.
Zat, why do we have Star Wars merchandise on the table and are wearing the same Star Wars shirt?
It's happened.
What's
Episode
happened?
9, The Rise of Skywalker, finally premiered here in Brunei.
And it came out a couple of days ago, actually.
Came out a couple of days ago, and we have seen it twice.
Oof, and we're gonna talk about it one time. So, here's the crazy thing about The Rise of Skywalker, right? Here's the crazy thing about the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
It's had such a tumultuous beginning to end.
Yeah. Yes, it has. It has directorial changes.
Yes.
It changed its release date.
Yes.
And the amount of the rumors swirling around the changes to the movie.
It's like the Force isn't with this trilogy.
No.
And here's the crazy part, is that The Rise of Skywalker isn't just the conclusion to the sequel trilogy.
No, it's a conclusion to the whole Skywalker Saga.
Which is episodes 1 to 9. There's 9 movies in the saga spanning 4 decades.
Yep.
And episode 9 had the gargantuan task of concluding that storyline.
I mean, no one would have thought that they were going to conclude this story.
No, I mean, we weren't even supposed to have a sequel trilogy.
No,
Episode
exactly.
6, for all intents and purposes, was the end of the saga as we knew it.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
so let's talk about that for a really quick bit, like how we got the sequel trilogy. Now we did a Star Wars episode not too long ago.
Yep.
We went for like an hour-ish talking about Star Wars only. But the sequel trilogy is probably the most, not only in terms of development, but also in terms of what it did to the saga, the most controversial trilogy that's ever been included in the saga. Would you say so?
And we would have thought that initially it was the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
You know how much backlash
Yes.
the prequel trilogy had, but in light of episode 8
and now 9.
and now 9, we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
But in light of the conclusion of the sequel trilogy and as a whole, the whole Star Wars Skywalker Saga, I don't know.
It's crazy. It really boggles the mind when you really think about it.
It does. I mean, who would have thought that we live in an era where the sequel trilogy has been causing more uproar
Yes, than the
than the
prequels.
prequel trilogy?
That blows my mind.
And again, in hindsight, who would have thought that the prequel trilogies, to some people, have stood far better?
Than the sequel trilogy.
It has aged better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not to say that the sequel trilogy might not age better. I mean,
No,
who
but
knows?
it's just every movie that comes out is rife with controversy, right? Let's track the timeline of the sequel trilogy. So we talked about this in the previous episode. Is that 2012 Disney buys Lucasfilm?
Exactly.
2013 J.J. Abrams is attached to direct Episode 7. That's all we know.
Yeah.
Right? And I could be wrong, but J.J. Abrams has this crazy task of outlining the next 3 films. Because he creates the world, he starts it, he's supposed to leave an outline for the rest of the films.
Yeah.
And then we get a bombshell that Rian Johnson is going to be directing Episode 8, which tells you immediately, like, wait a second, why isn't JJ doing Part 2?
Yeah.
And then in 2005, after finding success...
2015.
2015, so sorry. After finding success with Jurassic World, the writing team of Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly
were
hired for Episode 9.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, the closer we got to Episode 7, it felt like the less involvement J.J. Abrams had.
And that's not even mentioning the directorial choices for both Rogue One and Solo.
Yeah, and those went through a lot of changes as well.
Exactly.
So, tracking the timeline, Episode 8 was supposed to come out May 25th, 2017.
Yep.
The original release date was supposed to be the 40th anniversary of Star Wars,
Yep.
the original Star Wars. And Episode 7 comes out, The Force Awakens, rave reviews, gets $2 billion worldwide, and is being attacked for being a ripoff of A New Hope.
Well, a lot of people it has its detractors.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of people are thinking like, okay, why rehash the whole plot of A New Hope?
Yeah.
But for me, that was its high point.
It was.
That was its selling point because
It was same yet different.
exactly it created it introduced a whole bunch of
new
characters to the audiences today.
Yes.
But also
And it made you care for them. That was the crazy part.
Exactly.
Like the scene where Finn, spoiler alert for one of the biggest movies of all time, when Finn got slashed in the back by Kylo, I felt, oh man, that is painful to see.
Yeah.
And when, Kylo on Starkiller Base is reaching out to the saber and it flies past him, lands in the hands of Rey, the cinema erupted that night. And it just, these are new characters, but yet these moments were so powerful that people were immediately invested in Episode 7. And it was because of that. Because of that, there was an official news report coming out of Lucasfilm, I think, a few months later, because Episode 8 was supposed to start production.
Yep.
And They announced that the date has been changed because they wanted to go through significant rewrites.
Yeah.
Taking into account.
I also thought that this Disney and Lucasfilm as well thought that December was a great release date.
Yes.
I mean, when Force Awakens came out in December 2015, it blew the competition away.
There was no competition.
Exactly, but I mean, who would have wanted to compete in the
with Star Wars?
Exactly. Yeah. So they thought that I think December was a good day for them to premiere Episode 8.
And then Rian Johnson wrote and directed Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And the name was not revealed until 2017 January. And immediately there was a sense of dread because the letters were in red. And we all went, oh, I hope Luke's not dying in this one. And we were wrong. So I was there at Celebration Orlando 2017 when I saw the trailer release, and it was dark. It had a very Empire...
dreary...
There was an air around it.
Yeah.
And it was in this madness between releasing Episode 7... so between the trailer and the release of Episode 8, that Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly were dropped from
Episode 9.
Episode 9. And it was mind-blowing because it felt unprecedented just because a few weeks before that, or I wouldn't say a couple of months before that, the original directing team behind Solo, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, were dropped as well.
And they were like way into production.
They were 80% done it.
Yeah, they were like 4 months in.
They were like 80% done, and Ron Howard,
if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Ron Howard replaced the two of them.
And a mere 4 months? Maybe that was 4 months away from premiering.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like the directorial changes happened in early 2018.
Oh no!
It was in 2017.
Mid 2017.
Mid 2017.
And then the crazy thing about this is that we didn't get a replacement for Episode 9 immediately.
No.
It was a lot of back and forth, and it was just around the time that Episode 8 came out that J.J. Abrams was announced as the director of Episode 9, which is something I called way in advance, bragging. But here's the...
No, you did call it. Yeah, you did call it.
Here's the crazier thing, is that when Episode 8 came out, the controversy behind this film was almost universal from...
I mean, to this day,
It's the most debated Star Wars film ever made.
And that's saying something.
In a saga that has the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Exactly, and I can't believe how much... And people still are arguing about it.
Yes, they are.
And to be fair, I don't see anyone, apart from you, maybe, to a certain degree, defending The Last Jedi.
So we'll talk about this in a bit.
Yeah.
But the crazy part is that around the time of the press of The Last Jedi, Mark Hamill was very vocal about his dislike for his character. And that was a sticking point for a lot of fans because they hated how Luke Skywalker was treated. I was a mess after the film because I was just so dejected with how...
I remember seeing you after we watched the movie together.
Yeah.
Outside the cinema.
And I was crying.
You were just shaking your head.
Yeah, and because we had so much expectations. Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
You can't say the name Luke Skywalker and not expect us to not feel anything.
Yeah.
And for the next 2 years, it split the fandom. The Last Jedi has split the fandom.
Yeah.
You either love it or you want it to be wiped off the face of the earth.
And it greatly impacted the sequel trilogy.
It really did. That's the turning point. I think that was the turning point because rumors went nuts around that time.
Yeah.
That Rian Johnson, and I think some of the actors and actresses have said this, like Rian Johnson didn't use the original outline. He wanted to do his own thing.
I think I'm paraphrasing, but I think your correct words were, Rian Johnson, what a hipster.
Yeah, something like that, because he didn't want to use the outline given to him. He had full creative control.
Yeah.
And it was just so crazy, but the shocking thing about The Last Jedi is that it killed off Luke. But in real life, we had sadly lost Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
That is the part that really just blew my mind, because what next?
I mean, we were 2 movies into the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
And the amount of total time between both Mark Hamill, I mean, not just Mark Hamill, but Mark Hamill, the late Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford was minimal at best.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part, is that we lost Carrie Fisher, and when we left the cinema, we go, wow, how are they going to continue this?
Yeah.
Luke's gone. Leia's alive in the story, but in reality, she's gone as well, Carrie Fisher. What was going to happen after this? And the rumor mill went nuts, saying Rian Johnson threw out the original outline. Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly couldn't figure the story out.
No, they didn't even finish the first draft, if I'm not mistaken.
That was the rumors at the time.
Yeah.
That they didn't finish the first draft. And Chris Terrio from Argo, Batman vs. Superman, became J.J. Abrams' writing partner. And that was the most shocking thing I had ever heard, because I legit would have thought J.J. Abrams would go back to Lawrence Kasdan, with whom he wrote the first.
Exactly. I remember talking about this with my brother, and I thought, no, they have to bring back Lawrence Kasdan.
They do.
He fixes everything. He has the most like inside knowledge
on Star Wars. Because he co-wrote episode 5.
Yeah, exactly. Empire Strikes Back.
So, that's the crazy thing. And then they announced J.J. Abrams and you go, how is he going to fix this film?
Yeah.
And then they released the cast list. They say they're going to use unused footage of the late Carrie Fisher from The Force Awakens. They're going to get Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian. And Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill is returning as well.
In what capacity, we didn't know at the time.
And, it felt like this was going to be... it felt like what they were going to do was, we're going to do the best we can with what we have kind of situation.
Yeah.
And it was very quiet. Even the name was not released until I was at Celebration this year in April in Chicago. And they announced the name and released the trailer. And the name was The Rise of Skywalker. And the end of the trailer featured a laughter that's none other than Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
And it was at that point you realize we don't know what to expect anymore.
No. Who would have thought that... I mean... For everyone, for the audience,
Snoke died.
Yeah. For the audiences who don't know this, who have probably forgotten the ending to Return of Jedi, Darth Vader kills
Emperor Palpatine. Throws him down the reactor fusion area, whatever you call that. And Palpatine's dead, but we hear his laughter. And
so, how exactly are they supposed to bring him back?
Yeah. So the trailer releases, and at this point, speculation is nuts. And then Colin Trevorrow starts doing press for something else, and he talks about how his original ending for Episode 9 had Daisy Ridley in tears.
Yeah.
And how, he never had the Palpatine version in his draft, how he asked Rian Johnson to shoot something for him, and his involvement becomes more public.
Yeah.
Right? And not too long ago, we see his name and Derek Collins' name as story by credits.
Yeah.
Which means a huge chunk of the story is from the two of them.
Yeah.
Right? So if you guys are tracking this, 2015, J.J. Abrams releases Episode 7. There's good faith that he has outlines of 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson releases Episode 8 2 years later. Apparently, he threw out J.J. Abrams' outline.
Yeah.
And then Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly was going to conclude the saga.
And given the boot?
Yeah, we're given the boot. And there was also rumors that they were going to make Luke Skywalker play a bigger role. I don't know how true that is. So it's just such a crazy development. And now we stand...
All speculation, dude.
Yeah, it's all speculation. Now we stand after the storm has passed. We are now about to talk about Episode 9. Alright, so let's talk about this film. Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, has been given the task, as we mentioned, to conclude not just the sequel, but the saga itself.
Yeah.
Now, I have my opinions, you have your opinions.
Everyone has their opinions, man.
About this film.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, we should also mention that this is the lowest rated Star Wars film ever on Rotten Tomatoes.
As of this morning, before we shot this, the last I checked, it has a rotten score on
54%.
54% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which is actually just...
If that means anything to anyone.
Yeah, if that means anything to anybody. Which is also mind-blowing because the last one, The Last Jedi, was rated at a 98%.
Yeah.
Again, if that means anything to anyone. So, Izzat, do you want to take this one? What did you think of the film?
Okay. Where do I begin?
Oh.
I actually came into this before we shot this video. I was in two places.
Yes.
My mind was in two places. Do I review this film as a part of a sequel trilogy, or do I review it as a conclusion to the whole saga?
Yes.
So I'm caught in two minds here.
Okay.
So
and you feel like if you reviewed it as either or, it could fare differently.
It does.
Okay.
It does. Its impact to the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker Saga as a whole, it gives two different endings of a way, in my opinion. So okay, sequel trilogy. I thought that J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio did a monumental, took a lot of work and effort to course correct The Last Jedi.
Okay.
Okay. Because
so are you one of those people who thinks that yes, this has thrown The Last Jedi out the window?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Because for anyone who have seen the film, spoiler alert, for the first act of the film alone, J.J. Abrams course corrected so much of what The Last Jedi did. The damage, the damage it has affected to the whole trilogy. It was just too much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you fix the damage that Rian Johnson did to the sequel trilogy? So it was a good effort. It was a good effort in my opinion. But because of that, the first act, it was so much exposition. So much of the first act was a bit. I just want to skip to the part where the story really begins, because the first act of the Rise of Skywalker could have been a whole movie of its own.
Right.
Or at the very least, could have been the
Episode
ending.
8.
Yeah, the ending to The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Because
do you think if he had instead built upon what Ryan Johnson did, it could have been a better film? For you. Or for the critics at least?
Well, that is only if we felt that The Last Jedi was a good film to begin with.
Right.
So
that's also a very fair point.
If we were to follow, if Abrams were to follow through with what Ryan Johnson laid out, the groundwork that he laid out for the final film of the trilogy, then probably, who knows? But at the moment, it's contradicting. We know that J.J. Abrams went publicly and
defending
The Last Jedi, saying that it had its strengths.
Yes.
And we're trying to use a lot of the elements from The Last Jedi and bring it forward to the Rise of Skywalker.
But the work seems different.
But yeah, when you see the film yourself, you realize like, okay, why throw all of this out the window and create a whole new groundwork for the rest of the film? Because that's what it does. I mean, them as an example.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, thank you very much. Spoiler alert. The whole Palpatine thing.
Right.
It seemed so jarring. Yes, Kathleen Kennedy and the rest of the Lucasfilm have stated strongly that they've always planned having Palpatine into the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
But was he really?
If it felt like it was just kind of written, in my opinion.
I mean, like watching.
So, spoiler alert: Palpatine tells Kylo Ren there very early on in the film that he was Snoke.
This was also released in one of the TV spots or featurettes, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
It was the beginning when Kylo Ren
comes to Exegol.
Yeah, comes to Exegol, drops down. He slowly walks, and there's a voice of Palpatine, Snoke, and Darth Vader.
Yeah.
That scene was released publicly.
That's such a spoiler.
Mere days.
Such a spoiler.
And remember when we were driving back?
I knew that's the thing.
And then you were quoting a line from Return of the Jedi.
Everything that has transpired has done so according to my design.
I thought that you saw that featurette.
Oh, I did not.
Because I was like, why spoil this?
Right.
I was so surprised that they spoiled this. Like I said in the previous episode we did for Popcorn Culture, why oversell the film? Why show all of this, all these spoilers, all these all of these scenes when you could have just left it in the film and people would have been surprised to see it?
Okay. Yeah. So they retconned Snoke very early on in the beginning.
Yep, they did. And another sticking point for me with the film is that there are a lot of plot holes. And again, I admire Terrio and Abrams for course correcting the film as to the best of their ability, but at the same time, there were so many glaring plot holes there.
Okay, so you said you're of two minds about how they do a job at ending the sequel trilogy and ending the saga.
Yeah.
From the looks of it, you don't seem too satisfied with how they ended the sequel trilogy.
No.
Okay.
No.
So how do you think they did ending the saga?
I think that with how the movie panned out, Abrams acknowledged a lot of the Star Wars lore, all the way from the first episode to episode 6,
even bits of Clone Wars and Rebels
and Phantom Menace.
Yes,
dude. You pointed out to me that ending again. For those of you who have not seen the film, spoiler alert: the part where Palpatine absorbs the Force from both Rey and Ben Solo.
That's the midichlorians.
That's the midichlorians.
Yeah, they just didn't say it was midichlorians.
Exactly, but it's when you pointed out, I'm like, obviously it is.
Yeah, it's the midichlorians.
And the fact that it does. It includes the Phantom Menace. It makes Phantom Menace more
canon than it is.
Exactly,
yeah, okay.
And it makes you enjoy the Phantom Menace a lot more.
Okay.
I mean, it brings everything full circle. And it's not just Phantom Menace, but again, Clone Wars,
Attack of the Clones,
Revenge
of the Sith,
sequel trilogy. Obviously, I mean, it harkens back so much of the Star Wars lore to end the saga.
Mm-hmm.
It may not have done it beautifully. It may not have been perfect. I blame you, Ryan Johnson, and The Last Jedi. But again, I applaud Abrams and Terrio for concluding the saga the best they could.
Yeah, it's when as the credits rolled, I realized this is the best we're ever gonna get.
Yeah.
Given they had to work with the passing of Carrie Fisher, whose character was alive at the end of the last one, so they had to write off a character whose actor has passed, and they also had to sort of right the wrongs of how Luke was treated in Episode 8.
Yeah.
And they also tie up 9 films. I felt like they did the best they could.
And that's the sad part, dude. Like, watching Episode 9, there were so many scenes that felt so jarring. And it's because of Episode 8. Again, I'm not trying to be overly critical of Episode 8.
It's overly critical and doesn't appreciate me. That's Anakin.
But it's hard not to look past the sequel trilogy. It's hard not to look past episode 8 and look at the sequel trilogy as a whole and think what could have been.
That's true.
Because like The Force Awakens sets up so much.
It's a beautiful film.
The Last Jedi follows through with nothing or very little of what The Force Awakens set up. And The Rise of Skywalker is juggling both, it's
trying to make everybody happy.
Exactly. And
I feel like The Rise of Skywalker is J.J. Abrams literally sitting down with his team going, I need you to read every Reddit section, every comment section on YouTube, every tweet ever made, and tell me what people want, and I'll put it in. I feel like that's what it was. Which is to say, it's very heavy on fan service.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why critics are not liking it. So for contrast, two of my friends, one in Australia, one in America. The guy in America is not a huge Star Wars fan. Walked out of it this afternoon, says he loves it. The other guy in Australia has also watched it today and says he loves it as well, and he's a full-on Clone Wars Rebels guy.
Really?
So I feel like there's something for everybody in this one. Even Reylo fans are happy.
Oh my god. Reylo.
Yeah, so
oh my god.
Let's just recap this real quickly.
Okay.
As an ending to the sequel trilogy, yes or no?
No.
As an ending to the saga?
It's not a definitive yes,
but it's a yes.
It's a soft yes.
But it's a yes.
It's a yes.
Okay, so let's just quickly get into what I thought. I was super anxious before I walked in. I was super nervous. I wasn't sure how this was gonna go. And as the credits rolled, I realized that this was the best we could get, given what we've lost.
Yeah.
Because we've lost Carrie Fisher. We probably have lost the shot at getting a great Master Luke Skywalker story. Because I was really nervous about episode 9, and Luke Skywalker only appears in one scene, and that made me so sad because I really, really hoped he would have been there for more.
Yeah.
So, but I also realized it would have been a complete contrast to who he was in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
You can't have him come back from death in the beginning of the film and be like, let's go on an adventure, I'll be your guide. I just felt like it was
no. Again, Abrams trying to tie up all the
loose ends.
Yeah.
So, as an ending, I'm with you. As an ending to the sequel trilogy, I mean, what is even the sequel trilogy at this point? If it's not one great film.
Then that's the thing. I told you, I just spoke to you briefly just before we started rolling this, that the sequel trilogy as a whole wasn't great. It was okay, but there was one thing it did that made me not hate, but it annoys me a bit. Looking back at the whole trilogy.
The saga.
Looking back at the whole saga, and looking at Return of the Jedi, and how Darth Vader completes his redemption arc from Phantom Menace.
Yes.
From Phantom Menace all the way to Return of the Jedi, and kills Palpatine to save his son.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the sequel trilogies now, it seems like a mere footnote. Darth Vader's story is a mere footnote to the whole Skywalker Saga, and that's what pisses me off because I love. Okay, maybe people don't exactly like the Anakin Skywalker in the prequel trilogies, but watching the 6 movies all together from the prequels to the original, it is cohesive. There's a cogency to it, you know. But watching the sequel trilogies, it just looks past at the sacrifice that Anakin did for his son, for Luke, by killing off Palpatine. By bringing back Palpatine in Episode 9, his sacrifice means very little now. Means nothing, in fact.
Let's take a look at a clip from Return of the Jedi and see the destruction of the second Death Star while Palpatine actually died. So that's the clip that supposedly Emperor Palpatine survived. Okay. But it's highlighted in the very beginning of Episode 9 that he's a clone. The Palpatine we meet in Episode 9.
It's hard to swallow, dude.
It's a very tough pill to swallow. It's tough to swallow the fact that in the opening crawl of Episode 9, they talk about Emperor Palpatine coming back.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, the sequel trilogy had a great start, had a very rocky middle chapter, and I feel like could have had a more solid Part 3.
Yeah.
If J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio looked at what was left from The Last Jedi and said, let's not retcon this, let's just work with what we have.
Yeah.
But I feel like the pressure from everywhere was too high for them to drop the ball on this one.
Yeah.
In the end, it resulted in a product that was created for a specific group of individuals some people who wanted a closure for the saga.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people became fans of the sequel trilogy from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Some people had never seen Star Wars before until Force Awakens came out. And people are so mad at how the characters got treated. But my question has always been, it's not like the last one treated them that well either. Okay. Rey didn't really have an arc in The Last Jedi. She did, but it could have been more for a 2-hour, 35-minute film.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with Finn and Poe. They were just kind of on their own missions, and it felt like
it's wasted, dude.
It felt like that kind of was detrimental to their growth, and I just felt like there was more. There was less war, more Star in Episode 8, and obviously you can't ignore what happened with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
So starting from the get-go, I feel like Abrams and Terrio were handicapped against this.
Okay.
So to see Rise of Skywalker, I suddenly go, oh, so this is essentially the sequel to Force Awakens that they never got to do.
Yeah.
Which is because you got Rey training, you got Finn and Poe on adventures. It's what they would have done with Episode 8. But I feel like that took up so much time that by the time we get to the ending, it's a really matter of like, okay, this is it. It's going to get into overdrive right now. And as an ending to the sequel trilogy, I'm with you when I say that I'm disappointed. But as an ending to the saga, I actually really liked it. Because I just don't see how else it could be done. Given that I was complaining about how we don't get to see Hayden Christensen or
Qui-Gon,
Liam Neeson
Yoda,
as Force Ghost. And I realized that this isn't the OT timeline. It's been 60 years since Qui-Gon's name was probably even mentioned. Because it was 20 years between Episode 3 and 4. And it's been 5 years between 4 to 6. That's 25 plus the 30 years that passed. It's like almost 60 years.
No one even knows what the Republic was like.
Yeah, it's all fables at this point.
Yeah.
So I thought that they did what they could, and you're right, because Skywalker Saga is Skywalker, like Anakin Skywalker should be the central focus of the story. And I feel like in 7 we still got that.
Yeah.
We still got that because Kylo was obsessing over one Skywalker while looking for the other Skywalker. He was obsessed with the father and son.
And the fact that he's the mother of a Skywalker.
His mother was a Skywalker as well.
Exactly.
So I feel like that semblance was still there. And by Episode 8, I felt like it was gone because of the whole, let the past die, kill it if you have to. And then with this one, it's kind of back again-ish, but not in the way they could have. So I feel like this movie should have been, I feel like it should have been reversed. I feel like the tone of 8 should be the beginning, which is focuses on the Skywalker.
Yeah.
9, the tone of 9 of balancing the Skywalker and, the new characters in the second one.
Yeah.
And then the final chapter is all about wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Full Skywalker story. But my concern with this entire thing is that it feels less like it's part of a Skywalker saga. It's the Star Wars saga, but not the Skywalker story. And this goes back to something J.J. Abrams has said, that this new generation inherited a broken world.
Yeah.
A world that was broken by the Skywalker bloodline. And I think this movie has a different function as well. There's a lot of imagery about twos. We have Kylo and Rey are
the dyad of the Force.
The dyad of the Force,
yeah.
Where they're connected by something. In terms of the heritage, this is the Palpatine. Sorry guys, Rey is a Palpatine. So Rey is a Palpatine, Ben's a Skywalker, and the Palpatine Skywalker bloodline will always be connected. So that's one thing. The second thing is that Luke and Leia, the twins, they're always connected by something. Because one restored balance to the Force by helping Anakin. The other one, Leia, gave birth to the guy that disrupted the balance of the Force. So, again, Luke and Leia are connected. And then there's also the other thing where, at the end, when Rey goes to Tatooine, she buries
both sabers of Leia and Luke
in the ground as the sun sets because she realizes that she has to be the one that bridges the worlds. So Rey Palpatine takes her name to be Rey Skywalker. And I felt that was such a good ending to the whole thing together. But the only problem being that the first 6 movies were not about any of this. It was about a particular person, which was Anakin Skywalker. So as you said, so how I see it is, this is the epilogue that we don't really need. This is 7, 8, 9 is the post credits.
Yeah.
6 ends. You want a post credits, you watch 7, 8, 9. What happens afterwards?
Yeah.
Because personally for me, it still works. You could still go 1, 2, 3, Solo, Rogue One, 4, 5, 6, and it's still a beautiful story.
Yep.
Because at this point, you don't technically have to watch 7, 8, 9
okay.
if you don't want to.
So, let me throw in a question to you. Had it been Ben Solo who survived at the end of Rise of Skywalker instead of Rey, would it have completed the whole Skywalker Saga more?
It would have, but it would still leave that jarring middle chapter, which was nothing about Anakin.
True, but it finally, it literally is about a Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yes, Ben.
In an ideal world, Ben is the one that lived. Honestly, I've been saying that Ben is the one that lived. Now, we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Is that our collective weakness for the beauty that is Daisy Ridley.
It's on. Can I turn this on?
So, I understand why Ben had to go. I wish he didn't. I wish Ben survived. I wish it was Rey who died, because I personally think that Ben Skywalker taking his grandfather's saber to Tatooine and his mother's saber, burying one of them in the sand, while looking at the sunset with Luke and Leia and an Anakin Force Ghost would have just tied this
would have been perfect
saga with a bow. Like it would have been a gift.
I mean, I don't know if I told you this, but from the very beginning of The Force Awakens, I knew that Ben Solo would continue this redemption arc from his grandfather.
Yes.
In a way, yes, like he's obsessed with his grandfather, saying like he wants to carry on his torch or whatever. But by saying that, unwittingly, he's actually carrying on his redemption arc.
Yeah.
So
you know what could have also made it actually for me much better? Rey lives, Luke and Leia's Force goes, followed by Anakin and Ben.
Yeah.
That would have been it. That's all we needed.
But because at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, we see Ben, vanishing the
Yeah.
same way we've seen Obi-Wan and Yoda.
And Luke and Leia.
Yeah, exactly.
So why not just have Ben, like 3 generations of Skywalkers, which is Anakin, Luke and Leia, and Ben.
Granted, I did like the part where he brought Rey back to life.
Yeah.
For those again who don't remember this in the prequel trilogies, Anakin is obsessed about trying to
create
stopping life from dying.
Yes.
In a source. Like this is after his mother Shmi died, and wanting to he's obsessed with trying to learn this force, this dark side of the force to protect Padme from dying.
Yes.
We never get to see that.
No. But Ben in a way fulfilled that.
Exactly. It completes Darth Vader's Anakin Skywalker's arc.
Yeah.
But again, in a split second,
he dies.
Yeah. But before that, they kiss.
That's the weird part.
It just ruins it for me.
We didn't need that.
It just ruins it for me, dude. I went apeshit.
Yeah, we didn't need that.
Why?
Abrams, JJ, bro, come on. Come on, we didn't need the kiss.
Sure, I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there are, shipping Reylo.
No.
But I didn't need that.
That needs to be shot.
Oh my god, I didn't need that.
Sink that shit.
I would have been okay if he brought back Rey back to life.
And died.
And he dies.
I wanted a Romeo and Juliet. I wanted him to bring her back, and then he's dead, and she wakes up like, Ben, are you there? And then he's gone. and then I'd be like, no, I'll be here for you, Rey.
And there's so many, again, dangling stories and from not just the episode 9 but the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
What did Finn want to say to Finn? To Rey.
Yeah.
What was Maz Kanata's role throughout all this?
Yeah. How did she suddenly disappear?
Exactly. What happened to Rose after episode 8? I mean, there were so many characters.
Yeah.
Like, say what you want about the prequel trilogies, but at least it was consistent with Jar Jar Binks. You get to see him from episode 1 to 3.
Yeah.
Having some kind of involvement throughout the whole storyline. What about Finn? What about Maz Kanata?
What about us?
It's just
yeah, no.
It was a huge mess.
As the conclusion to a sequel trilogy, I'm with you. I didn't really like it, but as a conclusion to a saga, I will say it's the best we can get, and I'm honestly at peace because. Okay, so do you think they'll do 10, 11, 12?
Right now, give me a second to think.
Yeah. Do you think 10 years from now?
I don't think they will, but they should.
You think so? You think Rey's on a newer journey now?
I think that they should, yes.
Huh.
I mean,
I don't think they should.
For me, I don't think they will, because the way they ended it, again, they all
felt definitive.
Yeah. But
we've been here before.
We've
been here before.
I think it's not just syncing with me. I'm just not accepting the fact that Rey is ending the story. Nothing against Rey. I'm just pro Ben Solo.
At this point, I'm with Ben Skywalker. So that's the thing. I feel like it's at where it could be, but I still feel like this sequel trilogy is such a missed opportunity, because
I feel like they need another trilogy to course correct this trilogy.
Right? And it's just gonna be this forever, and it's just such a shame that. And I was reading an article today about one of the editors of The Rise of Skywalker, who's worked with J.J. Abrams for like a long time. She said when we found out Luke Skywalker died, that threw a wrench in the plans for us. Did nobody read the script? Like, was the studio not telling what was happening behind the scenes? It was just, it's just so disappointing.
I think Kathleen Kennedy just dropped the ball somewhere along the lines.
I don't know if I would squarely blame one person, like, because Abrams was offered the trilogy.
He was.
Okay,
so in a different alternate universe,
we have the perfect sequel trilogy.
Had J.J. Abrams taken on the reins as director for,
we would have had the greatest trilogy of Star Wars ever made.
You think so?
Yes, I think so. And it's such a shame.
Ifs and buts, man. Ifs and buts.
There's a multiverse out there where anything is possible. Okay, so really quickly, what would you rate episode? And we had a conversation where I was rewatching The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So having seen that, I feel like there's a good movie in there. It gets bogged down with so much nonsense, but I would say the key scene for Rise of Skywalker is when Rey's talking to Luke and he says about how the Jedi were fell because of their hubris and arrogance, and how Darth Vader came into being. And Rey reminded him that it was also a Jedi that brought Darth Vader back. That was a very powerful scene for me.
From The Last Jedi.
Yeah. Let's see if we can quickly put that in right now.
The legacy of the Jedi is failure. Hypocrisy, hubris.
That's not true.
At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out. It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader.
And a Jedi who saved him. Yes, the most hated man in the galaxy, but you saw there was conflict inside him. You believed that he wasn't gone, that he could be turned.
So that was the scene. Having watched it recently, I thought, you know, if this film was less about casinos and gambling and horses, and less about protecting what we love and awkward kisses, and more about helping a fallen Jedi Master find his place in history again, it would have been a beautiful film.
Yeah.
And that's what really pisses me off. Is this entire sequel trilogy is a missed opportunity. It's all what ifs.
And we've talked about this in length off camera. You would have thought that they would have learned the mistakes from the original trilogy and learned the many mistakes from the prequel trilogy.
Nope.
And yet
it's like this saga's cursed. Like, you're trying to tell me nobody sat down during the conception of episode 7 and said, we should show one scene with old Luke, Leia, and Han. Really? Nobody thought this?
No one. If of all the things they wanted to pursue in terms of fan service, that would have been it.
Yeah.
Right?
And how sad is it that Lando Calrissian and Billy Dee Williams only gets the call now? He's been around the entire time. Really, nobody sat down and said, if we're gonna be starting a new generation, we gotta get it handed over from the previous generation. Yeah. Nobody said this.
No. It's sad, dude.
It's so sad. Really sad. We've lost Carrie Fisher. And narratively, we've lost the opportunity for Han and Luke to meet again. Because they're both dead.
Yeah.
Now, unless you're planning a Disney Plus series that takes place between episodes 6 and 7.
No. If they were to do some kind of
retcon
and put it into like a Disney Plus series, then no. That's just cash grabbing. That's just like...
And this sequel trilogy wasn't?
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. It's just horrible.
Let's say it. Let's call it now. 10 years from now, episode 10, 11, 12 get announced.
You saying whether they will do it or not?
No, I'm saying they just announced it 10 years from now.
Alright.
Right? What do you want?
What do I want?
Yes. What do you want from this trilogy?
That's tough. Okay, that's tough, seeing as how we've lost the original trilogy cast. Literally, we've lost... In a way, narratively speaking, we've lost Luke, we've lost Han, we've lost Leia.
Yes.
So for them to pursue a new trilogy, the question I have to ask is whether they're continuing the Skywalker Saga.
They have to. You can't call it 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, but with Rey now in the as a playing a starring role in this,
she could start a new trilogy.
That just opens a whole new bag of like what ifs, like who could be in it? Will Poe still be in it? Will Finn still be in it?
Do you feel frustrated?
Will Chewie, R2, and 3PO still be part of it?
Don't you feel a bit cheated that Finn and Poe didn't get an ending? Like the sequel trilogy technically ended with that hug in the forest.
It was just nice.
Yeah,
but it had to be something more.
Yeah, and the saga ended with Rey on Tatooine.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you don't know what you want out of a...
No, at this point, I don't know what I want, because for me personally, again, nothing against Rey, but I would have wanted to see Ben in another trilogy. Again, and that, in a sense, continues the Skywalker Saga. like it would be a more cogent continuity.
Okay.
Rather than having Rey. Again, I'm not saying that Rey is a bad character.
She's beautiful.
It's just that narratively speaking, would have made more sense to have Ben.
That's fair. If it was me, if they were to do 10, 11, 12,
yeah,
I want them to renumber. I want 7, 8, 9 to be 10, 11, 12, and we get an actual 7, 8, 9. We're never gonna get that.
Wishful thinking, dude.
Yeah, we're never gonna get that. Okay, so really quickly, your rating for The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, so as I mentioned in one of the previous episodes that we've done, I normally review my films out of 15.
Because he's pretentious.
And I will explain just briefly as to why.
Yeah.
A lot of films like comedies, for example, and like, you know, dramas. For example, we can't compare a film like 50 First Dates
to 50 Shades of Grey.
Well, I was gonna say Godfather, but okay.
50-50, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
But yeah, I know what you're trying to do. So I review my films based on 3 key things. One being the narrative. Narrative, the story, that's the key aspect of any film. You have to have a good story. 2, the character development. You know, whether it's a solo vehicle like the Joker, which really revolves around his character arc.
Hey Murray.
Or it could be.
Before you bring me out there, can you call me Joker? It's such a good film.
It was. It's like the best film, one of the best films of the year. Or it could be an ensemble cast. So will all the characters in this huge cast of films, a huge cast of characters in the film, get equal screen time?
Yes.
Or are they carefully developed? Endgame, I'm looking at you. And lastly,
you didn't like Endgame?
No, like I just feel like they didn't. Not all of them had equal screen time. It's impossible.
That's true, but Captain America looked amazing, so I feel like we should minus some.
We'll get to that in another episode probably. And last but not least, the genre. If it's a scary movie, did it scare you? If it's a comedy, did it make you laugh? All those things. So it has to tick all the right boxes.
So 5 out of 5. So it has to be 5 out of 5 in each category.
So 5 out of 5 equals to 15.
Okay.
And the beauty of this is that unlike scoring it out of 10, normally when people say 5 out of 10, it's still sitting on the fence for me. So it's like 50. Is it below average or above average?
Yeah.
I mean, like for me, it doesn't sit well with me.
Yes.
But having out of 15, you can either have a 7 out of 8 out of 15, which means it could be below 50 or above 50. So right now, my review of The Rise of Skywalker very quickly. As an end of a sequel trilogy, it fails. For me, story-wise, I give it a 2.
Ooh, out of 5.
2 out of 5. Because again, the first arc was just so jarring, and the scenes with the late Carrie Fisher, as great as it was to see her there, it just felt out of place a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but it was. And the character development, yes, there were great scenes between Poe, Rey, and Finn, but a lot of the characters from episode 7, episode 8 don't get a lot more development.
Yeah.
Again, Mas Kanata, I'm looking at you. And as a genre, so for character development, I give it another 2. But as a sequel trilogy, as a genre, because it's a Star Wars film, how would you ever describe it as anything else? I give it a 4. Mm-hmm. It rates pretty high because again, it's the ending that Abrams and Terry could ever give us. So 2 plus 2 plus 4
is 8 out of 15.
It's 8 out of 15.
Just above the passing mark.
Just above average.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my review of.
But as a closing for the saga?
As a closing of a saga, the story, I bump it slightly to a 3. Mm-hmm. Because again, it harkens back to all the little things from episode 1 to 2, all the way to 6 and 7. I mean, Abrams and Terry did a great, admirable job of doing that. So I bump it slightly up to 3. Character development, I still give it a 2.
Right.
As bad as it was, because again, with Ben, I still wish that he had a more, complete arc, fulfilling Anakin Skywalker, spiritually.
Yes.
But as a genre, knowing that this is the end of the saga,
5.
I give it a 5.
Nice. So we're looking at a 10 out of 15.
10 out of 15, which is a respectable out of 10 in a way, is 6.6 out of 10.
Yeah.
In a way.
Right, so for me,
yes,
I rate movies out of 5 categories.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Who's pretentious now?
Writing.
Okay.
Acting. Directing. Execution. And genre.
Okay.
So, writing. So each of them is by 2 out of 2. So either 50% or 100%.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's
or 0.
Yeah.
In some cases it could be 0. Yeah.
Or in some cases it could be 0. I would like to give The Rise of Skywalker, for the writing, I will give it a 1.
Okay.
Not because it was bad writing, but it's because they really had very little choice here.
Yeah.
I will give the acting full marks because everybody acted their hearts out. Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
They did an amazing job in the acting department. And then you have the directing. Say what people will about this film, it's directed nicely.
Yeah.
The shots are good, the transitions. I liked it. Yes, editing, pacing was off.
Yeah.
A bit.
I was gonna say.
But it's directed well. Like the scenes mattered. Next one would be execution. For me, execution is what's the final product like? And I have to say the final product, while there are some, I have reservations, there are some parts that made me go, that is beautiful. Just because it was a collusion of music, acting, shot, everything.
Yeah. The score was beautiful, I have to admit.
Yeah, of course.
It kind of added
and
to the
genre,
whole thing.
Star Wars is a genre of its own.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you for agreeing with me, by the way.
Yeah, of course. So, like, the only reasonable score I can give is an 8 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah, it's an 8 out of 10. Because it's not just a film, right? It's smaller parts. It's a sum of its parts. It really is. That training sequence that Rey took is beautifully shot, beautifully conducted, and well acted. Like, that's a beautiful... The opening scene with Kylo Ren just killing an entire planet of people.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And when you get to that bit where Poe and Finn are talking and Poe goes, I can't do this without you. And Finn's like... General. Beautiful chemistry.
Yeah.
Like, it's these moments. These moments are Star Wars to me. And then that bit, obviously, was very hokey where Poe said, that's it, we're all alone, I'm sorry, guys. And then it was like, no, we're not, we got help. And like, everybody shows up. Sure, it's hokey, it's very Dunkirk. I still felt, yeah, I like it. But like, for me, what really solidified this as the showstopper to the saga is Rey is on her back, looking at the opening in the Sith rooms. She's seeing Palpatine laser disco the entire like resistance.
Yeah.
And she's crying, and she says, "Be with me, be with me," and you hear
all those voices,
the Jedis, like the disembodied voices. You hear that, and you go, "Wow!"
Yeah.
That
was a great scene. That was a beautiful scene.
When Hayden says, "Bring balance, Rey," like I did. And then you have Yoda go, "Fear not." Like,
dude, Qui-Gon's voice.
Yeah.
That's...
And the fact that Rey's journey ended with Ben saying, "These are your last steps." Like, I just went, oh my god, this scene is beautiful. Like, I would give it 10 out of 10 just for that out of context scene. Like, it's such a beautiful scene.
But that's out of context, dude.
Yeah. So, okay, so there's a few films out there that out of context look absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight, when he's on the Pruitt building, the SWAT team's coming up, but Joker had the doctors dress up as clowns and the clowns dress up as doctors, and Batman just had to take the entire SWAT team by himself, and he did the sonar tech.
Yeah.
That sequence is my favorite sequence in any comic book film. It's a beautiful sequence.
Yeah, it was.
So for me, like, that scene with Rey looking and saying, "Be with me," I forgive whatever problems I have.
Oh, dude, no.
I just this is so good.
That's... One scene will not save the entire saga.
Because
let alone
that is
one
literally the golden generation of Jedis looking at this Jedi going, "Let's do it. We'll do this with you." And I felt that was such a nice handshake moment. That was such a... You've seen Extreme Ghostbusters, the cartoon from the 90s?
Yes.
You know how the original Ghostbusters cameoed and was like, you guys got this now?
Yeah.
That was the handover that...
You never wanted, but...
In any other franchise would be absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
You can't have William Shatner's Kirk meet Chris Pine, go, "You're doing a good job, kid," and then just walk away.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is more about that. Star Wars is about the metaphysical presence of the Force. This, I don't know if you know, is the first time we saw stars through a character's eyes in Star Wars. When she looked beyond that opening, all she saw was stars. And the way I saw it, thematically, those stars were each of the Jedi. And they were talking to her and said, "Do this." And I just thought, man, this is... And we talked about this. There's some deeper meaning in this film that I can't quite catch.
Yes, it does.
It's because we're not that smart.
We're not.
Anything Chris Terrio does, he's always going meta, man.
Hats off to Chris Terrio.
Yeah,
he did an amazing
like that
job.
scene when she looks at the stars and that's it, they start talking to her. I just go, man, that unified the saga. And I wish we got more of that. I wish we got more of that, but I understand
I wish we could get more Force Ghosts.
Yes, again, I'm so upset that we didn't get Force Ghosts. I really am. I really wanted a bigger role for Luke Skywalker.
For Anakin.
I just feel so sad we're not gonna get that.
Yeah.
But I understand why, because by the chapter 8 it was no longer about the Skywalker Saga.
No.
It really wasn't.
The end. I mean, like, dude, the ending of Last Jedi when the kid, like, you know,
Yeah.
holds off to the room. Yes, like,
The Force can be with
conceptually,
anybody.
it's nice.
Yeah, but it takes away from the lineage.
Exactly. That's
So-
the whole thing. It's about family.
Yeah.
You know.
Star Wars is keeping
Well,
up with the
it's-
Kardashians in space.
It's what Luke said to Rey on Acto in Rise of Skywalker. You know, family is not just, it's more than just bloodline.
Yes.
And that's what it is.
Yeah, some things are thicker than blood.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker, always my hero. But yeah, so man, I'm telling you, this movie had such great parts that I'm on board. So I would give it an 8 out of 10 at 80%. You're saying 10 out of 15 is 66%.
Yeah.
I'd give it an 80%. It's a very admirable job. I really wish we had it differently. I really wish we had a different episode 8. I really wish we had a different episode 9.
I mean, okay, maybe I shouldn't like I shouldn't be too harsh on this film.
Yeah.
Because, like, looking back this past year, Star Wars was just one of many films ending a saga.
Yes.
I'm looking at
Endgame.
Avengers Endgame. I'm
Game of
looking at
Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad
El
with
Camino.
the El Camino movie spin-off. So Star Wars was the biggest closing
Yeah.
to a saga
Yeah.
in any film of any franchise this year. And I think my expectation was just too much. So
Which
maybe
is funny because I was the one who was super anxious before I walked in.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm being I'm all riled up.
Yeah, you are, and I think it's really because we just have a certain version of Star Wars in our head. We really do. Like,
Yeah.
having seen The Last Jedi, I go, if I was not a Star Wars fan, I would have think this is a good film
That's true.
because we just have a certain version of it. But you know what? I would not trade any of this for that feeling I had when I watched Episode 7. That first time I watched Episode 7, I would not trade any of this for that feeling of finding magic again.
Yeah.
I really, when I saw Episode 7 for the first time in my life, I felt so happy.
I remember we watched it like how many times?
I watched it 16 times in the cinema.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I will not trade any of this for that. And it's a damn shame that the sequel trilogy ended the way it is. But I can always end it at 6. I can always watch till 6 and go, that's my ending.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm glad I lived through this because Episode 7 spurred me to go to America for Star Wars Celebration 2017 where I met Mark Hamill, I met
Congrats, dude.
Hayden Christensen, thank you. Like, it really spurred me to do a lot of things and really enjoy Star Wars while it lasted. So, to J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, you guys get an 8 out of 10 from me. Zat gives you guys a 6.6 out of 10.
Yeah, that's my rating.
But I do feel like it's one of those films that the more we watch it,
again, with Star Wars films, over the years, every time I watch it, my perception of it changes.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
you know, ask me again in a year and I might feel differently.
Yeah, and I'm gonna watch it again a couple more times, absolutely. And I'm sure my opinion will change then too. But if you had to pick one good thing from this film, what was it? Like the part where you go.
That's
so
easy.
we've done this, right? We've done this like from every trilogy, you pick a part that says that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
So in this film, what's Star Wars?
Like, and so remember in the previous Star Wars episode, I said that the ending of The Force Awakens was like the highlight for me.
Yeah.
That has changed, and this might be cheating because I'm stealing two scenes.
Yes.
But I'm referring to the scene when Kylo Ren shares that moment with Han Solo.
On it. Oh.
When Leia uses the Force in her to bring back Han Solo to turn Kylo Ren back to Ben Solo.
Yes.
That moment they shared where Kylo Ren repeats the same lines that he said
From The Force Awakens
when he said, "I know
These
what I
scenes
have."
are now a diet.
Exactly. It's like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. In The
Yes.
Force Awakens, instead, when he stabs Han Solo and kills the very Skywalker in his blood, essentially, you parallel that with the
throwing the saber.
and throwing the saber into the waters. It's just, I was in tears.
Really?
And literally, I watched it the first time, and I watched it the second time when we watched it in the cinema, and I was still in tears. It moved me. Again, because I'm a pro Anakin Skywalker fan.
Same.
And the fact that they're bringing his spirit into Ben Solo, and him saying that, throwing the saber away, and having him in the end holding the saber that his grandfather used,
Fighting Knights of Ren, fighting the very things he created.
Exactly. It's just beautiful, dude.
There,
that scene
I
of
feel
him
like-
pulling the saber out from his back,
Yeah.
and he goes, dude.
He should have lived. For me, while I say that Daisy Ridley beautiful. Looking at the sky and hearing the voices of the past. That's not a Star Wars scene. That's very new. That's never been done before. So my favorite scene in this entire film is when she's on Tatooine.
Oh, the end?
And she buries the saber in the sand. And you know what's going to happen? This is like Titanic. When they ask Rose, what's your name? Rose. Rose Dawson. Like, she does that thing.
Yeah. You knew that when she said, no one's been here for so long.
Rey from where? And she looks at the side and she sees the spirit of Luke and Leia and she says, Rey Skywalker. And I just felt so... This whole saga is so crazy, right? As the credits rolled that day, I realized that Rey's journey has kind of paralleled the first two protagonists. Because think about it this way. In the OT, you have Luke Skywalker, farm boy, destined for nothing. Right? Because all I remember him saying is, from looks of it, I guess I've been not going anywhere. You know, like he had that line.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he found out his dad was the greatest villain in the galaxy, became a great Jedi by helping his father, you know, redeem himself. So he went from, he forged his own destiny.
Yeah.
Whereas Anakin had a great destiny ahead of him.
The chosen one.
He was the chosen one, right? He was the chosen one, and yet he became the galaxy's biggest villain. And Rey came from nothing. Was destined to be a Palpatine, chooses to be a Skywalker and hide away as a nobody. Like, it's just, if we were smart, we would have figured this out.
There's something there.
There's something there. We
just can't figure it out.
We can smell it, but we can't see it. You know,
that's not even like we're also talking when we're talking about duality.
Yeah.
Like we have both Luke Skywalker training Ben ends up being the villain for the sequel trilogies. And
Leia training Rey becomes the hero.
Yeah, not knowing this whole time that Leia was like
force sensitive. And,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the whole the whole twos thing.
Yeah,
right. Which is you know, Luke and Leia, Palpatine and Skywalker bloodline, Rey and Kylo, the two sabers, the twin sons. Like
there's just so many themes there.
And we can't. Again, we're not that smart.
We're not smart enough to comprehend.
No, but it's just. Again, this is a beautiful saga.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to say here, guys. It's the Star Wars.
Look, okay, let's say if you hate 8 and 9, that's still 7 great movies out of 9.
It is.
You know, and you throw in the 2 spin-offs, that's 9 great movies out of 11.
No, we could probably like make our own, you know, fan fiction after post 7.
Yeah,
we ended with on Octo with Rey handing over the
I'll write the script for the fan
to Luke Skywalker, and then we'll just we'll
just
make it as we go.
Yeah. So yes, that's it from Star Wars, and I think it's a fitting end to us talking about Star Wars at this point.
I do implore everyone at home to go out to the cinema,
watch The Rise of Skywalker,
and have a sense of closure.
It does.
To the Skywalker Saga.
The saga. All right, so we've done talking about Star Wars. The next episode is going to be very fun because we're going to be talking about my favorite comic book of all time, and it's none other than Watchmen. And Watchmen has created 2 sequels at this point.
Yes,
a prequel, and it's its own verse. It's the Watchmen verse.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about everything about the Watchmen verse in the next episode. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be a great episode. And that's it this week from Popcorn Culture. See you guys next time.